when Venus is in a difficult avashta, the adult mind Venus, instead of connecting a person to the things they need in the external world, ends up disconnecting them from those things. Okay? And it doesn't do this on purpose. Venus is trying to go out and connect, even when it's a troubled Venus. In fact, a troubled Venus, we can say, even tries harder. But the way it plays the game, the way it tries to connect, the end result is it gets disconnected from what it needs from the external world. Okay? Now, Venus is considered the karaka of marriage, and that's considered sort of the most important role of Venus. It's the planet that gets you a marriage. Okay? Now, that's simply because marriage is the most stable of connections we tend to make in the world, in the sense of getting something we need. Okay, from our children aren't a Venus connection. We don't have children so that they can give us what we need and nourish that. That's not the purpose of having children. While in some cultures they like to say that, oh, when I'm old, the children will take care of us and that makes it fair, and then I get my needs met. No, that's actually not what happened. In fact, in the Indian Shastras, they say that raising children is how we pay back the karma to the children for what they did in their past lives to us. Okay, so it's not that we raised them and now they owe us an old life. If we've raised them and developed a good relationship with them, then of course they're going to be there for us when we're old. But the child has no karmic obligation just because they were raised, because the karmic obligation was balanced upon us raising our children. All right? So anyway, so children are not that kind of relationship. Children are ruled by Jupiter, which is where it's a charitable relationship where you give the best you can with no need to get anything back. That's a healthy parent, okay, with that attitude. So, of all the consistent aspects in our life of where we're connected, it's the marriage partner, the life partner, that's the most significant one. So Venus, we always talk about marriage. But really Venus is connecting us to anything on the outside that we need. So we need nourishment for our body. Okay, we need food. Venus connects us to the food. It connects us to the people we need to get our connective needs met with. It connects us to people we even need to make deals and trades with. And Venus also connects us to places. So we need to go somewhere, we jump in a vehicle, and Venus connects us to that place. And Venus is the most important planet when it comes to making journeys. So if you go on a trip somewhere, the most important planet is Venus. We don't care about Mercury retrograde and Vedic astrology. It's complete nonsense. But when it comes to making journeys, there's all these special considerations that are given to Venus. And they're very complicated. Okay? Like which side of the sun is Venus on, depending on what direction you're going. I mean, we're talking very difficult astronomy things that are looked at to help ensure that Venus can connect us to the goal of our journey. Okay? Okay, so essentially Venus is connecting us to all these things. And does it do a good job? Do we succeed in it or not, depending on the avashta of Venus? Now, there's two planets that star Venus, the Sun and Moon. So Venus in Leo, or joined or aspected by Sun, is starred by Sun. And if it's joined by Sun, it's also agitated. And Venus in Cancer, or joined or aspected by Moon, is starved as well. And then, if Venus is with Saturn, conjunct it, only conjunct it, Saturn stars Venus. He also delights Venus, so there's a mixed batch going on. Okay? So, the person who has Saturn starved in Venus will have many of the good qualities that we talked about in the Saturn-Venus delight video before. Okay? But at the same time, they aren't getting their needs met. And we can measure how much of that's going on, how many needs are not getting met, depending on the strengths of Saturn and Venus. But they're not getting their needs met in their Venetian things. Okay? Now that's simply because Saturn stars any planet he's with, because he says, don't do this. So Saturn, Venus is saying, don't connect in a way that's nourishing. That's essentially what it's saying. Okay? He's also saying, don't expect too much. Don't expect relationships to give more than they're supposed to. Be realistic. It's saying all those good things too. But it's also saying, don't get nourishment. You don't need the nourishment. It actually prevents the person from getting nourishment. It cuts them off from being nourished by the external world. And that's simply because of the karmic repercussion. Okay? Saturn stars any planets conjunct with because there's a karmic repercussion that has to be worked out over time. Over time, it'll become less and less as we burn that karma. Okay? But the person, whenever there's a Saturn conjunction starvation, we try and we think we found it, and then we found out, indeed, it falls short. So if you have a Saturn-Venus conjunction, your efforts you make, the plans you make, the things you do, you'll do a good job of 80%, and your results are 60%. You literally get shortchanged with the Saturn conjunction, especially the Saturn-Venus conjunction. So if you have that, you just have to keep trying your best and working out that karmic repercussion. And also question yourself about why, try to work through it psychologically as well, why you're limiting yourself, why you're insisting on always getting the shorter end of the stick. That's what happens with Venus. They're always insisting on getting the shorter end of the stick. They have to do more for the people in their lives than the people do back. Okay? They always have to get the shorter end of the stick. So they have to learn how to balance the stick and realize that it's more beneficial for everyone if everyone shares and puts equal work into it, because it helps people feel good to contribute. Okay, so a Saturn-Venus conjunction person is contributing more to their partner than their partner's contributing to them. The problem with that is their partner is not growing in self-love and feeling good about themselves and not growing in self-reliance if they're not contributing. So the Saturn-Venus person needs to realize that they can contribute to their partner's well-being by requiring their partner to contribute more to them, to make it a more fair deal. But usually, instead of insisting on that, they'll just let themselves get the short end of the stick. So they have to realize they're going to contribute more to their partner if they insist on their partner contributing more. Because if they do contribute more and their partner never kind of really contributes enough, the partner is not developing self-reliance, the partner is not developing the capacity to feel good about themselves, and the partner is going to remain stunted. Okay, so it's better to demand the partner contributes. But at times, because there's a karmic retribution there, as soon as they demand the partner to contribute, by demand I don't mean do it or else, I'm saying request it in a firm way. And this is necessary, but be strong in the request. Their partner will freak out, the partner might leave, the partner might fight with them. Basically, the partner can be very, very resistant against that. And there's a chance the partner is going to freak out for a week, not talk to you for a week or a month. There's a chance the partner is going to leave. That's okay. If they don't want to contribute in a balanced way, it's better to not have that partner there. But again, because of the karmic retribution, the Saturn-Venus can find themselves in situations that they just can't extract themselves. Maybe there's young kids. Maybe financially they can't pull it off. There's something going on that they can't extract themselves. So essentially you can get stuck because of this karmic retribution of being in a relationship that's imbalanced. Okay? So you just have to work through it, do your best, keep working it, keep trying to make the relationship more an equal partnership of both people mutually contributing things of equal value, equal time, whatever, to what needs to be done, whether it's raising the kids, making the money, or whatever, and slowly working through that. And that's really all a person can do. Okay? Now, the sun and moon starvations are complete, though. It's all about, yes, we don't like Venus. We are not going to help Venus out. Saturn likes Venus. He wants to help Venus. But in the conjunction to Venus, he's simply unable to. Okay? To do it fully. He only can do it somewhat. But Sun is not here to help Venus out. So Sun stars Venus, and Sun says, I'm here to build my kingdom according to what I am and who I am. Okay? And Venus is, okay, I'm something from the outside, which means I'm different than you are. Okay? And now the Sun is starving Venus and saying, okay, I'm not going to connect to this thing that's different than me, essentially. Okay? We need something from the outside that's different simply because it's different. You know? If we already have it, if it's the same, if it's already in our kingdom, in ourselves, something we can do on our own, then why do we need it from the outside? How would it benefit us having more of that? It won't. So, in a healthy relationship, appreciation of differences and the ability to use people's differences productively is really a good quality. Okay, Mercury has that capacity. Mercury has the capacity, oh, let's try this different thing. Oh, wow, we can do this with it. Wow. Sun doesn't. The Sun stars Venus and says, this is the way I do it, and I'm not interested in doing it that way, or I don't think that's the right way to do it. Because now we have the parent mind starving the connection. The parent mind is saying, this is how it's done. You know, this is how it's done in my kingdom. And Venus is like, but I'm from another kingdom, we do things differently. And the Sun says, then go away. Then I want to separate from you. I'm not going to let myself be close to you. I'm going to be upset at you. I'm going to be angry with you, especially with the conjunction. With the conjunction, it's now agitated too, right? I'm going to be frustrated at you, and I'm going to kind of control you, either in an overt or perhaps a subtle way, to do the things the way I want to. And if not, I'll be frustrated, which is what happens with an agitated planet. Because when Sun is with Venus, it's agitated. So the Sun-Venus person goes around, wants to have relationship, wants to have connection, because humans need connection, but it wants things to be done the way it does it. And it doesn't want to experience and work with and develop with the differences. So inherently it limits relationships. Sun-Venus conjunctions are starved for connection, because Venus is the planet that gives connection, because they're simply rigid in their own way of being. Okay? Mercury-Venus is flexible in its way of being. Okay? And so this parent mind Sun is saying, this is how things are done, and we don't want you to bring things in from your kingdom and do things the way you do them. We just want you to be like me, but be something I want. Okay? I still want you to be like me and do everything the way I do, but I want you to be a person that I can connect and be in love with. You know, doesn't work out that way. Okay? So a person easily gets, parental on their partner, essentially, and will try to control their partner or tell them the right way things to do. They basically don't want to just experience their partner fully as them, because their parent mind has this idea, this is the right way to do things. This is how things have to be done. The parent mind is essentially interfering in relationships. Okay? A healthy relationship is like Mercury-Venus. Okay, that's a healthy, fun relationship where two people come together, they need something from the outside that has differences. That's different. They meet and Mercury goes, okay, let's figure out what's here. And it starts playing with what's there and trying things with what's there and develops this thing called a relationship. Okay? And out of those two people, this third thing develops, which is the relationship. Mercury supports that. Okay? Saturn delighting Venus supports that because it supports that because it doesn't create these expectations that don't allow the relationship to just develop along its natural lines. And then Sun starving Venus gets in the way of that too, because the Sun is saying, but this is how things have to be done. And essentially it keeps the third entity, the relationship entity, from ever completely forming. And instead of, there's me, there's you, and there's our relationship, and it's its own thing that's based on how we come together and figuring out what works, using our Mercury-Venus delight. Instead of that, it's, oh, we have two different people coming together, and I don't like that about you. I don't like that you think that way. I don't even want that part of you. Instead of, all right, let's see how that part of you works with this part of me and turns into something else. Let's play with it. Let's try it. Let's see what can be worked. So right away, people with the Sun, stars, and Venus start chalking up differences, and they want to eradicate these differences. They don't want to work with these differences and find something new, the way a Mercury-Venus conjunction would. They want to eradicate these differences. So they subtly or overtly will try to control the person. One person I knew who had this, and he had no Mercury with Venus. It was a pure Sun-Venus conjunction, okay? But he had a very, very good Mercury in his chart. And he was married for 30 years. And when he got divorced, his wife told me that the reason she divorced because she realized she never, ever got to do anything she wanted to, that he always talked her into doing what he wanted, how he wanted things done, everything. He always talked her into it. She said, you know how he is? He can sell snow to Eskimos. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I met him at a bike shop where he was selling bikes like no one else. He was like the best salesman there. He could sell, he literally could, and throughout his life he would just always pick the right words to get anyone to do whatever he wanted them to do. And he did that for his wife for a very, very long time. And one day she realized, gosh, there's nothing I like about my life. And she left. And that was a Saturn-Venus, not allowing them to just discover a relationship between them, but dictating every step of everything. Okay? So that was an extreme case. I don't remember what sign this was falling in, but that was an extreme case. Okay. And it was the conjunction of Venus. So basically, instead of the relationship discovering what it's capable of and creating the connection that comes from that, the Sun-Venus wants to, Sun-starving Venus wants to dictate things a certain way. It wants things to be a certain way. I don't want my kingdom interfered with, but I still want someone in it. That's not realistic. When Venus is starved by Sun or Moon, essentially a person's trying to have relationships in a way that's simply not realistic. Okay? It's realistic to think that you can just live your life the way you live it when you have someone else in it. It's not realistic thinking. Okay? But a Sun-Venus, essentially that's what they want to do. That's how they think it can work. They think this relationship is something where a person just comes in and they like everything about that person, and they don't have to figure out how to accept certain things about that person. They can just teach that person, make that person grow up, be the person's parent. Sun is parent, right? And make them do things the way that is the right way to do. And it thinks these are the right ways to do. But really, at the end of the day, right or wrong, everyone's just living their lives to the best they can based on what they've encountered so far. Sometimes people haven't encountered things to show them what another person has learned, and so it's not right for them because they haven't dealt with the stuff that would make it right. But to the other person, this is the right way to do it. Okay? So say someone, eats a certain type of food. The other person, was sick and they got well by not eating that kind of food. So to them, it's right to not eat that kind of food. But the other person has been eating that food their whole life with no problems. So it's not right for them to not eat that food because that food hasn't caused them problems. Things like that. These little things can bother a person. Now, especially when Sun is with Venus, there's a lot of these incompatibilities. See, just like, Sun starving Venus sucks. Saturn delighting Venus is great. But the minute you get a planet with Saturn, we have this karmic repercussion that all of a sudden you just keep getting screwed over and over again. Even when you try better, you fall harder on your face. Like the karma, until the karma is burnt, things aren't going to work out according to your effort. Okay? And with Sun, Sun is delighting the planet or starving the planet, but the minute he's with the planet, he's also agitating it. It's so frustrated. Why? Because the minute we get an agitated planet, remember, I haven't even talked about it in this course, talked about it in the other courses, that planet is also incompatible. Anytime we have a planet with the sun, we're incompatible with that. There's an incompatibility where our parental mind doesn't allow for that thing to be compatible in our lives. Because our parental mind is most strong where the sun is, right? And so if this parental mind is really strong in a certain place, and you drop another planet in that same sign, then that parental voice is so strong in that place, the other planet can't survive there anymore. It's just going to, no, it's not tolerated. It's incompatible because the parental mind is too strong where the sun is. That's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. What it comes down to, though, is that with an agitated planet, people have to live their lives a certain way because the parent mind dictates that we live life a certain way. Okay? Just like Saturn, where Saturn's in, dictates where we're going to have a lack because of a karmic retribution. Okay? Because by this thing not working, by doing less in this Saturn house and having less from the planets that Saturn's conjunct, we're simply going to have less in our lives of this area. And because having less there is going to spur us on to other places. It's going to give us the time to do other things. Okay? So the karmic retribution of a Saturn conjunction is not just to whip us and punish us. It's so that by not investing that much time in there, we'll invest more time over here. Where? Where the sun is. The sun is saying, this is what you need to do, right? The sun is the should do. Do this. Do a lot of this. And any planet there is getting blown away by that parental mind. That says, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to let you interfere. So in a Sun-Venus conjunction, there's this incompatibility where the person is simply not compatible, and there's no ability to adapt and change because the person simply has to do that thing, even at the expense of that thing it's conjunct not working out. Okay? So that's why what we said, a sun conjunction, there's a sacrifice to it. The parental mind is sacrificing that thing. The one things that attracts, the things a person attracts, there'll always be huge incompatibilities. So Sun-Venus conjunction, there's a lot of incompatibilities. Like this woman I told you about. She said, nothing was ever anything I wanted to do. Nothing. Because it was so incompatible. It's normal to say, yeah, it's like half the things I didn't even want to do. You know, that's normal. Half the things I didn't want to do. That's a normal starved Venus. That's what your spouse might say, okay? But with a conjunction, they could say everything, perhaps, because there was such a great incompatibility that the people were just really, really different. Okay, so with the Sun-Venus conjunction, there's this incompatibility that a person attracts. Because they're supposed to be doing what they need to do to become themselves the sun. The parent mind is saying, this is how you need to be. This is your kingdom you have to focus and build on. And these things that come in, they're not going to be compatible with that. And the more we try to make them work, the more frustrated we get because they're simply not that compatible. So it has to be an element of simply surrender to any planet that's with the sun to realize we're not fully compatible with that. The sun's going to make us live our lives the way we're going to live, and that's going to cause other things not to work. The things with the sun simply not to work as well because we're incompatible. We're on a different page about certain things. Okay? Now, of course, delighting Venus can help that a lot, and so often when you have a sun conjunction to Venus, you also have a Mercury conjunction, and that balances it out. You'll see a really big difference in people's ability to have good relationships if there's a Mercury going on there, conjunct with Venus as well. And if it's just the Sun, though, it's much different than if it's Mercury, Venus, and Sun. It's balanced. You've got this Sun agitation problem, but then the Mercury there can do the Mercury things. Okay, let's just try. Okay, I can see the advantages of this. I can see how this works. I can make something work out of this. Whereas the Sun alone, it can't make anything work out of it. All it can do is do things the way it's going to do them and try to turn their incompatible partner into something more compatible until their incompatible partner goes, fuck this, okay? And it doesn't feel good. Or until the Sun, the person goes, no, this is not right for me, this person doesn't fit me, go away. So basically until the relationship ends. Sun-Venus conjunctions without a Mercury being there to help Venus are a lot of trouble in relationships. They definitely make relationships hard, just like a Saturn-Venus conjunction does. Okay? Lots of times people don't realize when they look at a chart, and there's a Sun-Venus conjunction, just how difficult that's going to make relationships. If Mercury's not there, it's going to. If Saturn aspects both, okay, that'll help too. Or if it happens in the sign of Saturn, so Venus gets some delight, that'll help a lot too. But if Venus is there with no support of a friend, it's in a lot of trouble. Okay? Relationships will not work out happily. Okay. So that's what's going on with the Sun-Venus. The parental mind is just too strong, and it overcomes Venus. Now that usually manifests because people grow up in situations where there's a dominant parental mind in the house that's reducing the parents from working as a couple. Okay, so simply put, one parent is dictating most of the relationship. This is the way the relationship is done, and it's not a co-cooperative event in the house you grew up in. I often hear people with the Sun-Venus conjunction complain about how their fathers decided everything, and later in life they felt like their father was just a crazy person who had to have things their way. Okay? That's the kind of environment that tends to breed a Sun-Venus conjunction. Okay? Where there's simply the Sun, which is the father, but basically where there's a parental mind person that doesn't allow for relationships to happen. And again, relationships happening is the relationship takes on its own form. Okay? With the Sun-Venus conjunction person, because of that incompatibility, the person is never able to embrace that form. So in a nice situation, two people come together, they develop this relationship, it has its form, its way of being, and what it's good at, what it's bad at. And then both people can embrace that form and say, I really, really like this. Okay? But a Sun-Venus conjunction struggles in embracing that form. There's always something about that form that's incompatible with them, that they don't like, that they can't work with, they can't accept, etc. And so eventually there will be separation. Okay. Now, the other planet that hurts Venus is the moon. Okay? The moon is the child mind going to Venus saying, oh, yes, meet my needs. The problem with that is the moon is a helpless child. Okay? And it can't trade with Venus. All the moon can do is go to Venus and say, get my needs met. I'm looking, the moon's looking around. Where am I going to get needs met? Any planets in Cancer in my house? Yes. I'm going to get my needs met through those planets. Am I with any planets? Yes. I'm going to get my needs met through those planets. Am I aspecting any planets? Yes. I'm going to get my needs met from those planets. That's what the moon does. It just looks around. Where can I get my needs met? And I can't give anything back. Okay? Because I'm 1 year old. Or 6 months old. I can't give anything back. All I can be is cute. I can be adorable. That's all I can do. But I can't actually tangibly give any energy back. I can't nourish anything. I can just be adorable and cute. That's all I can do. That's all babies can do, right? The reward of having babies is having something cute, right? Something cuddly, cute, and adorable. And so the advantage of having babies is essentially to have something that's lovable. Okay, because babies are very, very lovable, right? They receive love like nobody else, right? That's all the moon can do, okay? Is it can be lovable. Can it give love? No. Can it perform actions of love? No. It can't do any of that. All it can do is be loved. Now that's a really, really important thing. We need to be with people who can be loved. That's why having relationships with a person with a Saturn-Moon conjunction is very, very difficult. Okay? Because Saturn's saying to the Moon, don't be connected, don't receive love, and then you're trying to love them, driving yourself crazy, trying to love someone who can't be loved. That's what happens when the Moon's in bad shape. Okay? And it's very, very frustrating to try to love someone who can't be loved. All right? Or if the Lord of the Moon is in bad shape. Now we have a person who can't be loved. So you're saying the Lord of the Moon is starved, etc., or shamed. Now the person can't be loved fully, and it's going to be really frustrating. So we do need a partner who can be loved. Okay? But the problem when Moon starves Venus is that the Moon is saying, I need to get my needs met from the outside. That's my primary place, is from the outside. It doesn't work that way. The Moon delights Mars, Jupiter, and Sun, the self planets. So when Moon delights these planets, it says, by developing as myself, by becoming a more whole, self-reliant person, I will have my needs met more. I will have my connective needs met more. It's true. When you become a more developed, more connective, more self-reliant person, more people want to be sitting next to you. More people want to come to your house. Because there's so much for them to receive and experience when they show up at your house. Okay? However, if you're not self-reliant, if you have no sense of self, if you're not doing anything creative, which is self, creativity comes from the self, it's a Jupiter force, why does anyone want to be around you? Because all you're going to do is want to feed off them. Okay? So, the Moon will get its needs met when it focuses on self-development, developing its creativity, and so on, doing all the things that happens when it delights the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. But when the Moon says, well, I'm not going to focus on self. I'm not going to get my needs met by myself, by developing self-reliance, creativity, and other things that just make me feel happy. I'm going to get my needs met from that outside thing over there. That's my primary avenue. So, what is a person's primary avenue? Is it to get their needs met from where it can be found? In self, Sun, Moon, Sun, Jupiter, Mars? Or are they going to try to get their needs met from the outside? Moon starving Venus, Mercury, or Saturn, the three outside planets. If they decide that, if that's their primary method, they cannot be happy. So look and see, is Moon delighting or starving more planets in the chart? If it's starving more, the person is not developing self, not developing self-reliance, not developing into a person that can have a healthy relationship. Because healthy relationships only happen with people who are self-reliant. The more self-reliant you are, mentally, emotionally, creatively, materially, the better of a relationship you can have. If you're not self-reliant in any of those, if you're dependent and weak in all of those, all you can do is cling and control and hold on to someone who can do those things, hoping that you'll survive. And that's not a state of being in a relationship. The child mind can be loved, but it can't love. So the Moon can't love as an action. The Sun can love as an action, but the Moon can't. Okay? Adult planets can love as in an action of choice. The Sun loves as an action of, this is the right thing. I'm a loving being, and this is how loving beings are. The adult planets act in love as a choice. I'm choosing to love. I'm going to try to love. It's a conscious choice. But the moon cannot love. It can only be loved. The sun cannot be loved. It can only love. They're at the two extremes. Okay? Sun does not need love. The sun needs to shine love on others. It does not need love from anyone else. Okay? So yeah, Sun-Venus conjunction person, rather than compromise, they'd rather be alone. Because they don't need love, This because the sun doesn't need love. Okay? But a Moon-Venus person, wow, they will compromise, sell themselves out, play games, act, do anything, say anything, play any games, lie, manipulate, you name it. They'll do anything to be loved. Okay? The Sun, Venus, it'll do the least amount to be loved because Sun needs love the least. And the Moon needs love the most. So when the Moon starving Venus, it's basically saying, I need connection from the outside, and I want it to come from the outside first. Not from me first, which is Sun, Moon delighting Mars, Jupiter, and Sun. I want it to come from outside first. So what can I do to get it from the outside? So they're trying to do what can get it from the outside. They need it from the outside. They're desperate for it from the outside. And however much they get, it's never enough. It's just never enough. So they're always feeling starved in their relationships. Now, because they're starved in their relationships, one or two things will happen. They'll either leave their relationship and go find a relationship that feels less starved, or they will become clingy or demanding or controlling. They'll try to pull more love from the other person. Okay? In which case, the other person will eventually become overwhelmed or tired or drained or ill and have to leave. Okay? In either case, they're not able to maintain a healthy relationship. So what has to happen? What's the cure here? This is a serious thing. In fact, there's a yoga for no marriage, and it's if Venus and Moon are opposite each other, across the first and seventh house, a person will not get married. And that yoga works. Okay? If there's other marriage factors there, it will not last. The relationship will end. Okay? But if there's some other strong marriage factors there, maybe they'll get married, but it will end one day. And it'll end amongst a lot of pain of unrequited needs met. So the Moon Venus is simply unable to feel loved because it's expecting love to come from the outside first, instead of connecting to itself more, and then out of that finding more the world provides more connection. They're expecting the world to give the connection, and out of the world giving connection, they're expecting to be okay with themselves. But it doesn't work that way. Remember, it's all about I'm okay, you're okay. So we have to become I'm okay. The way we become I'm okay is we develop the self-planets. Moon, yes, but Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. The more we develop those, the more we feel I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. All right? And the Moon is there to do that. Moon delighting these planets is saying, let's develop so that you're more okay. Now, when you're more okay, you can have better relationships. Okay? But if you stay in a I'm not okay state, because your Moon is looking at Mercury and Venus and saying, make me okay, then you're in a not okay state. And if you're in a not okay state, you're never going to feel lovable. You're never going to feel loved. Someone in a I'm not okay state cannot feel okay with the love people give them. Okay? So Moon Venus is a very, very difficult thing. And the Moon essentially, it's very romantic, it's very adorable, it's very cute, it's very charming, has all the qualities to it that pulls people into a relationship. Okay? Has all the qualities that, oh yeah, that's what I want to love. Yes, because we want to love the moon of the other person. And you really see all those parts that make a person, you want to love a person in a person who's got a moon star in Venus. Okay? But then, the problem is, they're expecting love. They're needing love. They're needy for love. They're needy for outside stuff instead of developing internally. Now, they might be developing internally too. Look and see what Moon is doing the other planets. Is Moon delighting Mars, Sun, Jupiter? Okay, if yes, great. Or is it starving Mercury and Venus more? In which case, not so great. Essentially, you need to have more focus on self-reliance, and becoming self-fulfilled, which is Sun, Mars, and Jupiter. Okay, the internal planets. And the good news is, there's 3 of those planets. Moon delights 3 planets, starves 2 planets. So, chances are, if a person has a moon starving Venus, they're going to have more delight. Moon's going to probably delight more planets than starving. Although, the moon can starve Saturn too. So it's 3 and 3. 50-50, okay? So there's a 50-50 chance that, which one's going to be starved more? The good guy? Which one's going to be, if Moon's going to starve or delight more? So look, is Moon starving more or delighting more? If it's starving more, that person's child mind is looking for the external to provide the needs more than it should be. If it's delighting planets more, then the person's moon, they're looking to have their needs met more based on what they can truly do that will work. Now you have a person who's going to become healthy and healthier in their emotions and in their need fulfillment and in their self-reliance and grow into a better and better partner. But if the moon is starving Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn more than it's delighting those other 3, then the child mind is just more. It's an insatiable child mind. In the same way that a child can be insatiable for connection because it's 6 months old, 2 months old, and it actually needs that. That's cute and wonderful in a baby who's helpless. But in a functioning adult, you essentially, all you can do is be there for the person 24/7. The minute you're not, their child mind starts to feel unloved and questioning everything. And now you've got a huge problem on your hands. Okay? So, Venus delighted by Moon is very, very difficult, very, very, very painful for the person. Because they simply live in a world where their needs don't get met. I mean, what a shitty world is that, And yes, growing up, they lived in a world where their needs did not get met. And they still haven't figured out how to live in a world where their needs get met. How do you do it? Well, you pretend you have Mars, Jupiter, and Sun delighted, and you make self-development, self-reliance is your priority. You stop playing all the games that you play to get connection from the outside world. Okay? And develop self. Okay? That's what needs to be done. Okay? The person really needs to shift that. Now, a lot of people will say they're focusing on their self-development, but are they really? Okay? You'll tell, if you can just, how do they know? You just ask them, is your life working better in this department than it was a year ago? And if they say no, then the answer is, then you must not really be working on the self-reliance and the self-development part. You must not really be working on the Mars, Jupiter, Sun stuff. Because if you were, the rest of your life would work out better. Because we only can get what we need. We only can get from the world what we already give to ourselves. So, how much joy and security and love we can give ourselves, the world will reflect that. It'll give it back. And the love we're craving from the world's not going to give us because we haven't given it to ourselves. Okay? And if the moon is looking at Saturn, Venus, and Mercury saying, give me, give me, give me, this thing I haven't given to myself yet, it's never going to get it. Okay? So that's the easy question. Are you getting more than you did a year ago or less? You know, a more than 5 years ago or less or the same? Well, if not, then you're not really doing the work you need to. You might be doing work, but it's not the right work that's helping you make progress. Okay? All right. So, it's really interesting that the two planets that starve the moon are starve Venus are the two lights, sun and moon, the two most self planets. One is the adult mind self that's here to inspire us along the way, and the other one is the child mind self that's here to make sure we get our needs met. And those planets cannot look on the outside. Okay? Sun starves Saturn. Sun starves Venus. Okay? It does delight Mercury, though. Okay? Because Mercury is the crown prince and the Sun is the king. And so Mercury has a huge role in guiding the kingdom and, you know, developing the kingdom is a better way of saying it, according to the dictates of the Sun. So the Sun starves the connection with the outside world simply because, just had this thought I wanted to say, but I forgot it, sorry. There's an interesting dynamic that happens, okay? The Sun starving Venus person, Sun is separating. It's always a separated planet like Saturn and Rahu. Sun is separating from Venus because it's saying, I have to build my kingdom this way, and you don't fit into my kingdom this way, so I can't connect with you in this way. It's causing a separation, okay? The Moon, on the other hand, craves connection. It does the opposite. It's saying, I want to connect more with the outside. I want to connect more with that person than I am. Okay? It's seeking more connection. But it's seeking more connection in a way that won't work. Because the Moon can connect by being loved. If you want more connection, you have to be more loving. You see? The difference between adult mind and child mind is that the adult mind can be loving. The child mind can't be. Okay, Moon is not loving, it's lovable. Okay? So, if the Moon is saying, I need more love, I need more connection, and I'm going to get it from Venus, from some adult out there. Venus is the adult mind. It's got nothing to offer that adult. You see, the Venus has nothing to, a Moon has nothing to offer in exchange. It wants to be loved. It doesn't want to love. Okay? The way we have better connections is by becoming more loving beings. And we become more loving beings by being more filled with self. Not by having somebody love us more. Nobody became a more loving being because someone was more loving towards them. Okay? By loving, I mean in a romantic, loving, cuddly, kind of way. Okay? Right actions can help a person become a more loving being, and sometimes that means kicking them out of the house. Like one person told me, my dad cut me off at this age, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced them to become a more self-reliant person, to feel good about themselves, and in doing that, they've become a more loving being. Okay? But simply giving compliments and gifts and all that stuff never made anyone a more loving being. Okay? And the moon with Venus wants to be loved. Moon star in Venus wants to be loved. But it can't be more loved without self-development. It can't get the love it wants. It has to also develop those self-planets. Always look at those self-planets. They're the key to making love work. A good Jupiter goes a long ways in making a person be the kind of person that can have loving connections in their life. So does a good Venus. Those are two adult planets. So does a good Mercury. All the adult planets help people have better experiences in their relationships. And so when the moon's starving Venus, here the moon is, I need love from another person. I need love from marriage. I need love from my partner. And Venus is the planet of that, and it's starving it. That's the ironic thing about it. No one wants to be in a loving situation more than a moon-starved Venus person. Yet, in that very desire to have love, they're starving Venus and making love impossible. Okay, because the way the moon Venus sees love is me being loved. They need to learn that love is an action, not something that's received. And by developing the other planets, developing Venus, and being a more loving person, loving in action, okay, then they'll have better relationships. But as an adult person, thinking that I just need love the way a child just needs love. Yes, a 1-year-old baby just needs connection. It just needs to be touched. And all mother does is hold the baby in her arms for the first year, and anything else she does, the baby will be fine. Doesn't matter what else she does. She just holds the baby in her arms. She can go out and get drunk. She can party. She can do all kinds of crazy stuff, but if she just keeps that baby in her arms and holds her, the baby's going to turn out to be having a good moon in their chart. Okay? As long as mom is there, loving the child physically and emotionally, of course. Okay? So if she can get drunk and still love her child emotionally, it'll work. Okay? That works for a 1-year-old. It doesn't work for any other time in our life. Okay? As an adult person, if you still need that love as a child, that a 1-year-old needs, your relationships are obviously not going to work. And this develops because the person simply didn't get the love and connection they needed the first year. Okay? The moon is desperately looking, where do I feel loved and connected around here? It's looking for that in the first year, and it's not finding it. And it says, I live in a world where I'm not going to have love and connection. And there's some early separation with the mother. I live in a world where love and connection isn't there for me. Okay? So now they're desperately, I need to go find where in this world there is love and connection for me. That's what the moon Venus is doing. It's simply keeping up the pattern that started in the first year of life. I need love and connection. I'm desperate for it because I'm 3 months old and I'm not getting it when I really, really need it. And then that attitude continues the rest of life. So the person needs to step out of that attitude and develop their healthy Avashta planets. Pretend the moon is delighting Jupiter, Mars, and Sun. I'm going to go build my kingdom. I need moon to build my kingdom, Sun. Okay? I need to develop my creativity, Jupiter. Okay? I need to develop my wisdom, Jupiter. Okay? The thing about wisdom is a creative process. It really, really is. People who have real wisdom know what I mean. Wisdom is a creative process. The same way an artist just feels this inspiration to paint something or sculpt something or to create something, in the same way, wisdom is just this creative thought of truth that manifests out of a person. It's a creative process. Okay? So, Moon Venus, Moon, act like Moon Jupiter. I need to go develop my creativity. Okay? And Moon Mars. I need to develop my strength. Okay? My strength to do, no matter what. like strength to make happen no matter what. But the most important ones are the moon Jupiter and the moon sun. Because moon, sun, and Jupiter are planets we use every day. Mars is only the planet we use in emergencies. All right, so if you're needy and need help at a time of emergency, okay. When emergency comes, someone will come and show up and help you, right? But if on a daily basis you don't have moon symbolically, behaviorally, if you're not in the space of working to build your kingdom, of needing your kingdom to develop, and needing your creativity to grow, if you're not on a daily basis and you're expecting someone to do that on a regular basis to be happy, you won't be happy and your relationships will get exhausted and fall apart. Okay? Because on a daily basis, we need to feel we're working towards our kingdom, whatever that is, and on a daily basis, we need to be developing our creativity and wisdom because that gives us joy. And so we need to work on delighting, the moon delighting those two on a daily basis. Okay? So every day, do something to build the kingdom. Every day, do something that's a creative experience. And a creative experience is a creative experience. It's something manifesting out of a person. It's not, it's not going on YouTube and making something exactly the way someone else made something. That's a Mercury experience. That's like, okay, let me learn how to do this thing. Okay? No, it has to be your thing. Creativity comes from self. Okay? So, those are things we need to have on a daily basis, and where the moon can feel more, where we can become more self-fulfilled beings. But the moon-Venus starvation, the person is really starved from lack of connection in the first year of life. And Venus is touch. Moon-Venus really starved from a lack of affection in the early part of life. And they're desperately in need for it. And there is a development that they missed. We're meant to develop with a lot of Venetian touch in our lives in the first year of life. Remember, to be okay means to be stroked. Right? You read that book, Babies Need, or I'm Okay, You're Okay. How okay a person is depends on how much they're stroked and connected to their parent, to their mother. Okay? And just to the outside world. If they're constantly in a state of getting touched, great. But if they're not getting that, then they don't develop. There's a huge need that was missed. And now, as an adult, the brain is not in the state of development to develop along those lines. So the touch that would make all the difference to a person in their childhood and in the first year of life, that would make them grow into a person who could live very happily, the same amount of touch in the adult life won't make any difference. It won't matter how much it gets touched. It won't matter how many lovers it has, how many people write poems to them. It won't matter if everyone thinks they're the most beautiful, wonderful person on earth. It won't matter if everyone wants to spend time with them on earth. None of that will matter to the moon-Venus starvation as an adult. It's too late for that. The brain is not developing along those lines. It can't be trained in that way anymore. Okay? Because that age is over with. All that can be done now is develop the adult planets. That's all that can be done now. Because most of this is all happening, this drama of human life and relationships and trying to fix ourselves from 12 to 50 during the age of the adult planets, right? So all we can do now is develop our adult planets. That's all we can do. So what age are you in? Are you in the Venus age? All right. Start developing your Venus. First thing that means, stop starving Venus with your moon. Start delighting Venus with Mercury. Start delighting Venus with Saturn. Develop a better Venus. Okay? If you're in the age of Jupiter, okay, great. Take your moon and shift it from Venus shift it to Jupiter. And whatever age, wherever you suffered your lack of development, whether it was moon age, Mars age, or Mercury age, now that you're in the adult age, focus your development on that planet. If you're in the Jupiter age from 32 to 50, time to focus on Jupiter. Focus on learning the joy of being creative, the joy of meditation, the joy of true spirituality, where something bubbles out of you, where there's a joy, a wisdom, a creative force that makes you feel alive. Instead of looking for this or that to give you a purpose to your life, learn to experience how you can express your purpose every day. That's Jupiter. Okay? Express what's good in you. And live for that, not living for the outside. Develop that Jupiter mind. And if you're in the sun age, okay, now you're done with developing your adult planets. Now you're in the age of the sun. It's time to live as yourself. Live as yourself. Screw everything else. You know, live the way your inspirations dictate. Build the kingdom you want to build. You know, live the life you want to live, and do whatever you can. That's what you need to focus on. That means delight sun with Jupiter, delight sun with Mars, delight sun with moon, and practice those principles. So whatever age you're in, look at the delight videos for that planet and start living that way. But we can't make up for lost time, unfortunately. Okay? The brain, the hormones are developed, cause us to be capable of developing differently at different times. So that age of 0 to 1, the way we can develop, the way that people impact us, the way our parents impact, the way our mother impacts us, the way touch impacts us, the way comfort impacts us, how that evolves us and changes us. Those things will never do the same later in life. It won't have the same effect. But if we have a troubled moon, we'll want those things too. We'll expect those things too. And when they don't, we'll be as disappointed as we were when we were 3 months old and our mom disappeared and we had no connection, no touch, and we learned to be a I'm not okay kind of person. Okay? The only way to become a more okay type of person is to look at the age you're in and focus on developing that planet so you can become more okay in this age along the lines that you're developing now. You can't use a planet that was supposed to be used years ago and build your life on that. You have to stop misusing that planet and use the planet that's there, that you're in now, and build your life with that planet. If not, you're going to lose another period of your development. The same way that you didn't get the moon or the Mars or the Mercury got sabotaged. If whatever age you're in now, if you're not developing that planet now, you're losing that age too. Why would you want to lose the age of Jupiter? Because you're trying to make up for the age of Moon, Mars, or Mercury. Right? Why would you want to lose the age of Venus? Maybe finding a relationship that works when you're trying to live out the age of the moon and just getting touched is what it comes down to. Just getting stroked, right? Verbally and physically and gift-wise and treatment-wise stroke. That's what the moon needs. It's all it needs. We don't need that in the Venus age. In the Venus age, we need win-win relationships where two people give and trade and exchange real things to be able to build their lives. That's what we need in Venus age. Okay? All right, so it's very important to remember that. Don't throw away the period you're in now trying to make up for a period that's over. Just focus on what you can do in this period. Act like that planet's delighted that you're in now. Act that way, behave that way, practice that way until you develop that habit. And let go of the habits of and the beliefs of Moon, Mars, or Mercury age. Stop letting those get in the way. Because those ages where we didn't develop well, Moon, Mars, or Mercury, because of the traumas in our life. If we're trying to live those ages now, we're wasting this age. We just have to stop those wrong behaviors. Stop living those in the starved way. And then life will start taking care of itself. Stop doing that starved thing. That's just a habit and belief that developed because of trauma. And it's not serving us. Okay? So stop trying to play the game the way that child needed to play it but wasn't allowed to. Play the game the way your current age planet dictates. Okay, thank you.